How many time zone do we have in Africa now? I'm really confused. I should have put on more. Yeah. We have people joining in.
Okay, Africa, it's a quite interesting continent,
Yes.
owing to over 50 countries and lots of time zones, 2 hours ahead, 1 hour ahead, so it's a bit it's a
Confusing.
bit complex. We have Central African time, Western African and Southern African time. It's a lot of complexities.
Okay.
Luckily, the Northern African time and the Western African time are usually the same.
Okay.
So when you're in Egypt or
Don't worry.
so but I'm sure you'll figure it out. Musa will guide you. Musa travels across Africa a lot, so
It's really tough when you're outside Africa and you're trying to understand because you've never really worked in this time zone.
So it's great. Okay.
Thank you for telling me. We just think just three more speakers are left to join, and then we'll start with our conference panel discussion. Hi, Gamial, Gamalial.
Morning, good morning. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Good morning, how is it?
I'm good. How was it in Africa today?
It's fine. It's a bright morning in Africa, 8:36 precisely. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear. Is it really summer right now, or do you have summer most of the time, I guess?
What did you say?
How's the weather like? Is it almost summer? Because in India right now it's monsoon, so like for 2 months we are just drenching in rain.
Okay, so in Nigeria it is either dry season or raining season.
Okay.
Yeah. And so here we are transiting from the raining season to the dry season.
Okay. It's pretty much the same only. So I think we are just now have Abiola. I think we can start with it, and we will. Now we have to let.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It's a bright, beautiful morning. I'm speaking from Abuja, Nigeria, and it's a great pleasure to be in the midst of everyone here. I'm particularly delighted to have everyone, the panelists, the organizers, and some people have started joining, some members of plenary have started joining. We have a very fantastic set of industry experts from across different parts of the world gathered here this morning to participate in the unbanded program of the World Law Alliance. And we are so privileged that we'll be sharing thoughts together alongside Tanimu Gamale, Isa Ali Ushata, Devinder Sain, Dr. Mohamed Kurab, Ugo Chike Zirin, myself, Abiola Jimo, and of course, Troy Hector. All these individuals have been chosen from different parts of the world, and they all to address a very important topic to us all on blockchain and fintech across Middle East and Africa. And very shortly, I'm going to be sharing a very short presentation just to set the tone of the discussion. But this is more of a panel session where we're going to be asking questions to a panelists on different areas of fintech and blockchain and its impacts with regards to transactions, with regards to regulations across Africa and Middle East. Thank you once again, and it's a privilege to be here with you all. It's an interactive session, and members of the audience will also have the opportunity to ask questions. So the highlight of the program, like I said, is going to be a short pitch to set the tone, an interactive session with the fantastic panel members who are experts in the field, and of course, questions and responses from the panelists. Thank you. And with that being said, I believe Vibore from World Law Alliance will have a few things to share as an outline as well. Then we'll go into the short presentation. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abiola. So now I just have to make sure that you all know we are live on our LinkedIn. So you can invite people to join, people who are especially wanting their colleagues to listen to them. Good morning, and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, a very warm welcome to our special speakers and the audience who connected with us live from World Law Alliance and One Global. It is both an honor and a privilege to present you the Global Blockchain and Fintech Alliance Unbounded Middle East and Africa Conference. Today, we are delighted to host an esteemed group of speakers from across Africa and Middle East, offering them this prestigious platform to lead a transformative dialogue for a global audience. We are here today joined by Tanimo Gamyal from Nigeria, Isa Aliu Shata from Nigeria, Devinder Singh from Cote d'Ivoire, Dr. Mohammad Gorab from Egypt. We have Ugwu Chikizirim from Nigeria. We have Abiola Jimo, the moderator from Nigeria, and Troy Hector from South Africa, who will bring immense wealth of knowledge and insights to our discussion. World Law Alliance and One Global together stand as a beacon of leadership in the evolving ecosystem of legal, technology, tax, and business advisory. As a global network of professionals and experts and institutions, we exemplify the change we wish to see in the world. Unbounded Middle East and Africa series of online events are a significant milestone for the runner-up to Unbounded 2025 global face-to-face event scheduled for Singapore in March, followed up with other global events as destinations like Barcelona in July, Hong Kong in November, San Francisco in March 2026. Now I'm thrilled to introduce our moderator for the panel discussion, Abiola Jimo. Thank you for being with us, and I look forward to the very exciting and engaging discussions that lie ahead. The stage is yours, Abiola.
Right, thank you. Before I go into the short presentation, we're not here alone, like I said. I kept on mentioning panelists, because without the panelists, the program would not have the glamour and the flavor we're all expecting. So within very short minutes, I'm going to keep call on the panelists to introduce themselves and speak about what they do, their milestones in the industry, and just to give everyone a sense of the kind of panel members we have today. I'm not going to be going in any particular order, so you bear with me as I coordinate. We'll start with Tanimo Gamaliel to tell us about himself and share a few highlights with the audience. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and greetings from Lagos, Nigeria. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, if you could if you could show your face, that would be amazing.
Okay, my name is Gamaliel Tanmomo. I'm Chief Operating Officer of FreshPay NG. FreshPay NG is the biggest aggregator of student data in Nigeria, and we are actively supporting SDGs 4, gender equality and access to education. We are the pioneers of the first student loan idea in Nigeria and in sub-Saharan Africa. Founded 3 years ago by myself and my co-founders. As a date, we have over 500,000 students, paying students around the app. We have partnered with brands like MTN, major financial institutions in Nigeria, and we are doing well. We have not just a proof of concept, but we also have an MPV that is gaining ground. We have some measurable impact, and we are on the verge of landing our Series A investment in excess of some millions of dollars. It's a privilege to be speaking at this event alongside other panelists, and I look forward to sharing my words of experience. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So for those of us that are not panelists, please, I would advise us to mute our speakers.
Okay,
Let's mute our body because there's lots of disruptions from some background noise.
I'll mute everybody and I'll ask Kamyal to unmute yourself. Just a second. Should be good now.
Okay, thank you. So please, on that note, I'll call my very good friend and brother, who have been in the industry together for a while, Isa Aliyu Shatta. Please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Abiola. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, for wherever you're joining from. I'm, reaching out to you live and direct from Nigeria today. I think he has introduced myself already, my name. I'm the current MD of Unlimit. Unlimit is an international payment company. We have a PSSP license in Nigeria where we process transactions for merchants online, both high-end and low-end customers, merchants specifically. We have varieties of products, of course, changing the narrative, and of course, displacing the major players in Nigeria. And I'm pretty sure that for those who are already using Unlimit can attest to the great things we've done. We have different products that speaks to different use cases. And I am also pretty sure that for those who want to expand their businesses across the shores of not just Nigeria, Africa, and even Europe, we are currently present in about 54 countries globally. And that tells you the reach that Unlimit has. So talking about cross-border payment, making payment seamless for merchants, that's exactly what we stand for, essentially at Unlimit. Apart from that, I'm also one of the pioneers of mobile money in Nigeria. I've, experimented across different value chain payment use cases in Nigeria, from humanitarian digital payment for Red Cross, International Committee for the Red Cross, to digitizing, government collections payments, and at the same time promoting the vast agency platform. In fact, I'm one of those who started agency business, in Nigeria. Like I said, we are one of the pioneers of mobile money. I have experience cut across reg tech, agri-tech, insure-tech, blockchain technology, cryptocurrency. I mean, you can name it, right? I've interacted with regulators from, NDIC to, CBN. I've trained them, in fact, in operationalization of mobile money as well. So in a nutshell, this is exactly what I am and what I do. I'm a fintech enthusiast and financial inclusion expert. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is Dr. Omar here? Is Dr. Omar here?
You have
Dr. Mohammed Gurab. Dr. Mohammed Gurab, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can we see you? Oh, fantastic. Yes. Fantastic. Please go ahead, please. Thank you.
So it's me who will continue or what?
Yeah, you can introduce yourself.
Okay, so my name is Dr. Muhammad Gurab. I got my master degree from China, from Renmin University, another master from MBA from International Management and Marketing from Nürtingen University in Germany. And I got a PhD in blockchain from Halwan University in Egypt. I'm certified instructor in aviation sector. I was a former assistant to the civil aviation minister in Egypt. I was a consultant in the German government and a facilitator in the Chinese-Egyptian Belt and Road Initiative. So I'm glad to be here with everybody and welcome everybody. And I'm free to answer every question today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we'll move on to Troy Hector. Troy Hector, please take the time to introduce yourself. Thank you.
Colleagues, a very good morning and thank you for the opportunity and welcome to the session wherever you may be in the world today. So briefly, my background, I come from an information communication technology sector or the telco sector. That's where I studied my engineering practice and spent about 2 decades in the industry. Started Trident Digital Enterprises in 2017. The business has got 3 legs to it. Currently, it's got an education leg focusing on edutech specifically. Secondly, we've got a fintech leg focusing on the consumer market through a mobile app, both on the Android store as well as the Apple iOS store. And we've got a second leg to the business focusing predominantly on cloud-based accounting services to SMEs, particularly in South Africa and potentially going abroad as well. The third leg of the business is on sport and entertainment. That business is not commercially available as yet, but it certainly will be in the first half of 2025. We intend to go live. My interest in the fintech space covers quite a few areas, whether it's in the blockchain space, but particularly my academic research, which I'm doing through the BITS Business School in South Africa, is looking at the central bank digital currency and the applicability thereof combined with fintech and fintech mobile technology to see how it can better serve consumers in the marketplace. It's mainly about the digital maturity, understanding the ecosystems of a country, like in this case, South Africa. I know Nigeria, for example, as well, has also introduced the INARA on the African continent, but that effectively is my sort of academic and also commercial interest at this point in time. So I look forward to the session today, engaging with the audience, and also very, very privileged to be joined by these esteemed panel members as well. So thank you from my side for now.
Thank you. I'm sure our audience already feel enlightened with the profile of members, but that's not the end of the list. I have the fantastic Ugu Chikezirim as well. Please kindly introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm really happy to be here. I'm Samuel Ugu, and I have been in the space for a period of 5 years. I've worked with a logistics company that has built a lot of products on the block due to its transparency and its accountability. Currently, I'm working as an in-house counsel to a fintech company that is working to disrupt the traditional system, bringing in accountability, bringing in financial inclusiveness, extending to rural areas and urban areas, and trying to bring in transparency into the system. My work extends to compliance, both internal and external compliance with regulators, and also putting in internally the policies, regulations, and every procedure that requires us to have the trust and build the trust within in-house and outside. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Last but not the least, Devinder Singh. Are you here, please? Is Devinder Singh here? Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Before we go into the question sessions for the fantastic panelists, we just have a very short presentation to highlight some of the few things we'd like to address today. So permit me to share my screen, please. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's good.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So very shortly, I'll run you through the highlights of this discussion today. So the discussion focus is advancing blockchain and fintech in the Middle East and Africa. Just by way of introduction, my name is Abiola Jimo. I'm co-founder, co-CEO of Exchange-Box. Exchange-Box primarily is a fintech focused on extending financial services to rural, areas, rural low-end communities. Esteemed has a super agent license, and of course also has a microfinance bank license, with which it extends credit, savings, health insurance, and pension collections to the remote of all communities. And the aim is to finance this, enable these services across Africa. That's proud to now. I trained as a lawyer, but I've worked in the fintech industry as part of the pioneers. It might interest you to know that we joined mobile money when we didn't even know how to work around Africa or in Nigeria. So myself and Issa actually started in the same company years ago. And that's why I kept on mentioning, oh, my very good brother, because we actually worked together, bootstrapping the company way back, just to give some background. Thank you, everyone. So today, this is just an highlight that we decided to give you on the topic of blockchain. So we'll just go straight to it. Blockchain and supply chain has been a fantastic marriage in Africa and Middle East. Intersection of blockchain has led to supply chain inefficiencies being covered. So we have distributed ledger technology on blockchain, which has advanced supply chain management, enhancing transparency, traceability, and security. Also, when talking about regulatory landscape, in the Middle East, UAE, United Arab Emirates, is the pioneer in blockchain and fintech regulation. The Dubai International Finance Center and Abu Dhabi Global Markets have established complementary regulatory frameworks. So if you're looking at going into blockchain in UAE or Middle East, you're covered. UAE Securities and Commodities Authority has also issued some regulations on crypto assets, providing clarity and fostering innovation. Saudi Arabian Monetary Authority, SAMA, is also proactive in fintech and in digital payments and blockchain. It's actually launched a regulatory sandbox to allow fintechs to come up with a solution. So you can go to Saudi Arabia and also explore this. Bahrain has also established a fintech hub with the Bahrain Fintech Bay and regulatory sandbox managed by the Central Bank of Bahrain. It has also issued regulation for crypto assets and digital payments. So in Africa, Nigeria is the leading fintech hub with the Central Bank of Nigeria issued guidelines for digital payments. The Securities and Exchange Commission has also issued provisions on crypto assets, owning of crypto assets, what they call digital asset management. Kenya is also vibrant. We have the Central Bank of Kenya supporting digital payments and blockchain initiatives. In fact, in Africa, Kenya also charges sort of taxes on crypto transactions. And of course, it's also used in their stock exchange as well. South Africa has a very robust fintech and blockchain with the South African Reserve Bank and the Financial Sector Conduct Authority playing key roles. The Governmental Fintech Working Group has also established some coordination of fintech and blockchain regulations by various government agencies. UAE, like I said, and Saudi Arabia has received an estimate of $389.8 billion in blockchain transactions between 2022 and 2023. The ledger management system is also working well. Saudi Arabia also has initiatives such as the Saudi Payment Network, MADA, have facilitated increased transaction volumes in digital payments and blockchain applications. Though we do not have specific figures for Saudi Arabia at the moment. In Nigeria, there are lots of blockchain transactions, though not officially reported. But in 2020, the mobile money transactions is reported to be over $800 million, according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. In Kenya, is over 1.4 billion transaction counts in terms of fintech mobile money transactions as of 2020 by M-Pesa. That's the available record we're able to get. Now, South Africa has a steady increase in blockchain transaction volumes in the financial services sector. The figure is not exactly clear, but the crypto market is growing in South Africa. With this, these are the background highlights to give us. And with that, we'll go into the sessions now. Thank you. So I'll start with the panelists. and I'll start throwing questions at them. I hope we're all ready. Hello?
Absolutely.
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
I
Waiting
just need to be
patiently.
sure I'm not alone. Yeah. All right. So we have a few questions revolving around inclusion, revolving around growth of the industry, revolving around what we should do to make fintech better, blockchain better across Africa. So I'll start with the financial inclusion question, and two of our panelists will be considered for the questions around this. Let me start with Isa, and then I'll start with Gamale because they are both experts in these areas. So just to address it, what are the key barriers to financial inclusion in the Middle East and Africa, and how can they be overcome? So Isa, please kindly take this for us.
Thank you very much, Abiola. First, we need to understand the concept around financial inclusion. And what is financial inclusion? Financial inclusion is basically, creating financial access, to those who are either underserved or underbanked, right? And in Africa, you have majority of those categories in the peri-urban centers and the rural areas. In the Middle East, you have similar demography that also exists. But if you want to link the nexus between Africa and the Middle East, we have one peculiarity, which is infrastructure. Infrastructure is a bit of a concern, as regards to delivering financial inclusion or digital finance access, to the unbanked or the underserved. In Africa specifically, like I have said in my opening glee, the divide exists between the rural and the urban, area. And one of the barriers, to, financial inclusion is barrier to entry point. And the barrier to entry point largely, comes from first the identity, crisis that we have. Of course, if I want to, situate it to that of Nigeria, you have identity theft and all of that. And that's exactly what has snowballed into all the fraud that we have in the system and the lack of trust that has existed as well in the system. But putting a microscopic eye view or making a deep dive into what the challenges are really, it's first, we need to also have some regulatory, support so that we don't stifle innovation. If I want to give Nigeria as an example, BVN is the bank verification number in Nigeria, and NIN, which is our national identity number, have been made as a compulsory entry point for anyone to come into the financial ecosystem. But those who have categorized as the underserved and the underbanked largely do not even have this, to start with. Some of them don't even have phones. So if they don't have mobile phones, how do they really come into, the hub of financial inclusion? So there are other instruments, of course, that we can use to give, to create access. We have the NFC cards, we have all of the cards, but to what extent are you going to be including them? Because this segment of, customers or this segment of people need to also be able to interact with the platform, financial platform that you provide. Now, the inability for you to create a visible and viable financial platform for them to even first have, that first mover advantage coming on board, it's a challenge. Then the second aspect is beyond the cash in, cash out that we have today, the agency banking or the agency network that is spread across, the different financial ecosystem. You have one thing that specifically should stand out, which is embedded finance. And that's exactly where financial inclusion comes in. Because financial inclusion itself is taking someone from point A to point B. So I've created a financial profile for you. What next? You're looking forward to do something more. So with that, and with the help of, today, blockchain and artificial intelligence and machine learning, there is what we call behavioral scoring mechanism for credit access. So there's credit access. There is, at the same time, creating insurance access, which is microcredit, micro insurance, micro pension, and, agri-tech. All of these, help in deepening financial inclusivity in the entire aspect. Same thing with the Middle East. And the nexus that exists, or the ability for us to be able to do a P2P transaction, which is a peer-to-peer transaction, makes cross-border payment also seamless. So today, I'm aware of a product where it works on a feature phone, essentially on a feature phone. You don't need an internet to access it. You don't even need to go through the route of USSD channel to carry out transactions. So the product sits on a feature phone, and you can do almost everything that you do on your smartphone on the feature phone. So you see, that alone has created a lot of advantages in creating visibility and access to those who are in the financial, exclusivity, but people who are in the financial, who are underserved rather, and underbanked. Now, for regulation, a lot of regulatory, sandbox have come in. A lot of people have thrown ideas there. One of the things that we have witnessed in the industry so far is products are being churned out on day-to-day basis, but there is no business angle to it. So people lose track because of lack of experience, right? They are enthusiasts, they are passionate about developing product viability, but at the same time, they cannot operationalize that product in the industry. Why? Because they've not done their due customer diligence to ensure that they pick all of those, barriers that exist, in the industry. That's why you see that 6 months, 1 year down the line, most of these companies just close shop, they pack shop, because they don't really have that growth mechanism. They don't have that roadmap in the first place to see where they can take that product from point A of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and they expand it. So there has to be that clarity as to also promoting financial inclusion products. There are also some behavioral patterns that exist within this segment that are financially excluded. How can we, bring those behavioral patterns and develop it into technology-driven products? This is another thing that we need to do when we are, positioning or segmenting our products to fit for market for purpose, for financial inclusivity. Well, I wouldn't want to take much of our time, because I also would like, our panelists to, to add more voice to it so that this becomes very interactive. So I'm going to pause here and probably, take some times off to see where we can pick questions and also have a more engaging conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We would come back to the question of financial inclusion because you have laid the foundation on that. But because we have a bit of issue around a couple of things that we want to address around blockchain and fintech. So I will meet a bit to a supply chain expert and see how they've been able to apply blockchain to supply chain. I'm talking about Dr. Mohammed Gorab. So my question to you, sir, is from your experience, how can blockchain, or how has blockchain improved traceability and transparency in supply chain system, looking specifically at cross-border trading across Africa and Middle East? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to speak to you today on the topic that holds immense potential for shaping the future of transformation, potential of blockchain technology application and fintech advancement in Middle East and Africa. These regions are virgin regions. Still, there is lots of business opportunities and economic and dynamic population. And the most sustainable part is the human resource capacity building, which is unique positioning for innovation and leveraging of technology, fostering sustainable growth, driving financial inclusion, as you have said, and embracing digital innovation and transformation. I would try to discuss with you the Egyptian potentiality, what happened in Egypt regarding to supply chain. For example, the way that inclusion happened, that formulate through the blockchain resources that we had. For example, the government in the beginning couldn't have the whole unbanking people to have financial inclusion. The financial inclusion and blockchain and trading is all the same. It need to follow the same series. So the Egyptian government made three ways. First, they enhanced it first, I guess, converted cars to replace the old taxes. That was with a loan of 3% interest rate. Then they took those customers and put them on 20 to 30 years mortgage loans for apartments and houses. That was also with 3%. So they could now get 40 years of engagement of the population. Then they put business. The SMEs, Egyptian SMEs, they get loans with 3% for helping the small and medium entrepreneurships, which help and support the small and medium entrepreneurship. That's These actions of the government controlled more than 70% and put them in financial inclusion. That was the first part. Then the second part, the uses of for example, ATMs, NFC, digital wallets, digital banking, peer-to-peer, starting to cryptocurrency. That's really changed another things. This is the way that we could now interact with the international community. Now, if you come to Egypt, want to do business, you can start with QR code. You can pay for your workers with QR code or NFC or digital e-wallet or mobile banking. So you don't need to carry lots of money now and a paper money. You just need to have a fintech application and small knowledge of how to use this cryptocurrency or blockchain to interact with your business here. AI and machine learning, open banking initiatives by APIs, RegTechs. We have lots of RegTechs that we have, cloud computing, biometric risk management and or biometric authentications, cyber security technologies. So we in the Middle East and especially the United Arabs of Emirates, as my dear brother said, Abiola, about 2025 full digital, full powered blockchain UAE, United Arab of Emirates in 2025. So there is challenges, but the most important thing for trading is networking. And if we could provide both a combination of networking and business blockchains, it would really make great. I have made my PhD thesis on blockchain, so I used some new electronic form of blockchain called Nafeza. And this nafeza was very important to pay the taxation or pre-taxation or pre-customs to the goods and services imported or exported to Europe or different region. Now we are accommodating this blockchain with all of international trading system. So this is how we can really enhance different blockchain opportunities, enhance innovators of SMEs to formulate innovational fintech and blockchains. So what's made in South Africa could be sold as application in Egypt. What's sold in Egypt could be sold in Nigeria. What's then that the innovation team of African Union and MENA region, Middle East, should be united all together. This is my aim of this conversation. Africans' main sustainable development aspect is their youth, and within youth there is innovation, and within innovation there is a new tools that can be created and be sold internationally. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's great to have come up with people that not only have researched but also have experienced in this area, different areas, and that's the insight we've been able to get from Dr. now. I'll be moving over to Troy, from a South African research expert like yourself. We'd like you to explore different areas in blockchain that has to do with digital currencies. I know for a fact that Nigeria has attempted digital currency in terms of e-Naira some few years back. Of course, there's much to be said about that, but apart from Nigeria, there are other areas of digital currency that has come up to be developed or is being developed to unify how we pay or how we make things easier for cross-border payments, for unified payment system across the world. What can you share about this, Troy? Let's hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abiola, and good morning to everybody once again. So just to contextualize it, in the world today, since 2008, 2009, a certain Satoshi Nakamoto introduced this very disruptive, innovating concept called Bitcoin and blockchain. Today, if we move forward to 2024, that market, with all the cryptocurrencies out there, is in excess of 2.2 trillion, that's trillion with a T, dollars in the world today. So if you think of Bitcoin, if you think of Ethereum, you think of Litecoin, you think of Dogecoin, all the other exotic coins that are out there, that market is in excess of about 2 trillion US dollars. Of course, the poster child for cryptocurrencies these days is Bitcoin. It commands about 55, 56% of the global market specifically. And we can confidently say that this is mainstream at this point in time, not fringe, not operating on the outskirts of the financial services sector. It is definitely part and integrated into the economic ecosystems across the globe at this point. We're even finding these days that traditional financial institutions are offering cryptos as part of their portfolios. So you can now trade in cryptos and effectively get some investor benefit associated with their portfolios that are available today. The question then arises is that what do regulatory authorities, what do central banking authorities do in response to this sort of convergence of technology and finance in the marketplace, particularly looking at cryptocurrencies as a whole? By and large, cryptos across the globe are predominantly unregulated, and there are attempts in many jurisdictions, including in South Africa, including in Nigeria, including Egypt, as you heard a moment ago, to try and regulate these currencies for two primary reasons. One is there is a tax incentive for the regulatory authorities to do that, but secondly, I would like to believe there's also the protection of the end consumer that needs to be considered as well. So if something goes awry with a crypto investment, we need to ensure that our consumers are also protected in a particular jurisdiction at this stage. That being said, what has been the response by central banking authorities to try and address the exponential increase in cryptocurrencies? And one of the answers and resolutions that has been adopted, or that's currently being pursued in more than 50 jurisdictions globally right now, is something called a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. So let's just start with a definition of what a CBDC entails. And this, for reference, is just part of my master's PhD research at the Wits Business School in Johannesburg. And in very, very simple terms, it effectively is legal tender that effectively is a digital equivalent of a fiat currency. It's quite a mouthful. Let me just try and break that down for you. So in the South African context, we utilize our local currency, South African rand. We have the minted coin, and we have the paper note based in various denominations. Effectively, what the CBDC does attempt to do is to give you the same power, or one-to-one parity, and providing the currency in a digital format, which now is available via a secure wallet infrastructure. So now you can utilize your mobile phone to effectively trade in central bank digital currencies. The fundamental difference between CBDCs and cryptos is the following. One is that CBDCs are administered, issued, and effectively managed by a central banking authority. So in the South African case, the South African Reserve Bank is effectively the custodian of the CBDC, and effectively no other authority forward is permitted to issue, manage, or effectively maintain a central bank digital currency. That is not the same for cryptocurrencies, for example. So today you can't tie a particular a government authority or institution, or even a private investor linked to a particular CBDC. So, for example, there is no Satoshi Nakamoto Limited that effectively is the primary shareholder of Bitcoin, as an example. So that is the fundamental difference between cryptocurrencies and CBDCs at this stage. The area of my research really focuses on three critical areas to understand how CBDCs can be employed in an economy on a global scale. And I just want to give a word of caution. It's not something that will happen overnight. It'll probably take decades, perhaps even beyond my lifetime, before it becomes commercially available at this point. So first of all, the one aspect that we're busy researching at the moment is the effect of the digital maturity required in a financial system to deliver CBDCs to the marketplace. So what do we mean by digital maturity? Well, if you want to operate in the digital context and have mobile phones and mobile wallets and effectively have blockchain on your mobile wallet, it is important that you actually do have a very, very comprehensive set of infrastructure to support those digital transactions. So when somebody press a send or a pay button on their mobile phone, there's a whole set of complicated transactions, protocols, and processes that needs to be initiated in the background to ensure that transaction gets executed in a seamless, secure, and efficient manner. So apart from just the mobile phone in the consumer's hand and physically being able to transact, the back-end infrastructure also needs to be put in place. And it entails cloud computing, artificial intelligence, fiber networks, Internet of Things, a whole host of technologies needs to be in place to ensure that transaction can be captured. So one thing that is critically important to execute a CBDC in any market is to make sure that the digital maturity of the economy can effectively facilitate that particular transaction in real time at this point. Blockchain certainly will form part of that particular infrastructure. Why blockchain specifically? Well, blockchain provides the inherent cryptographic security principles that I think is very, very important in any financial ecosystem at this stage. We heard one of the speakers mention a moment ago that one of the big problems in the current traditional financial system is the issue of corruption or malfeasance that is taking place and the lack of governance. And that, by and large, should be eliminated if you go to a blockchain type platform. So the digital maturity is critically important. The second element that is covering my research right now is the element of economic efficiency. So the argument would be that if you're moving to a blockchain mobile wallet platform, it technically will be more efficient and more cost effective for the consumer to transact rather than utilizing the paper note or the physical coin to actually make a payment. In the South African context, it's estimated that about 5 billion, that's billion with a B, US dollars can potentially be removed from the system if you move to a CBDC platform at this stage. And where are those costs coming from? Well, think of the printing costs for the paper note. Think of the cost for minting the coin. Think of the security trucks that need to transport those notes and coins. Think of the housing in secure warehouses and the premises for that and the security linked to that. Those are all incremental costs that ultimately the end consumer pays in one form or the other. So that is one of the arguments that I'm putting forward at this point in time, is that by and large, that money can be potentially utilized for other infrastructure, building clinics, building schools, building new training centers in an economy, rather than actually wasting it, with all due respect, on the printed service when a digital context is available right there. So point 1 and point 2 is about digital maturity, economic efficiency. However, there's still some potential risk that need to be avoided as well. So the point 3 that I'd like to make, and just the final comment on CBDCs, according to organizations like the International Monetary Fund and perhaps the Bank of International Settlements, it has been suggested that your traditional retail account, with your check account or your savings account, will no longer be housed by your retail bank like we know it in a traditional market today. This will actually be housed by your central banking authority. So in the South African context, the South African Reserve Bank, which effectively feeds the retail banking network on which consumers get access to, Going forward into the CBDC world, it is recommended and suggested that the CBDC be housed and managed by the central banking authority and not by the retail banking institutions. And the question raises, what happens to those retail banking institutions? Think of things like the job losses or the infrastructure or the intellectual capability that's been built in those institutions over the decades and the many years. What happens to those people going forward? One element about the CBDC, which I'm very interested and very excited about to consider. And just the final point about this is also the harmonization cross-border on CBDCs. Technically today, South Africa, even though we're in the trial phase, we cannot interface on a CBDC level with the e-Naira in Nigeria at this particular point in time, as because we're utilizing very different platforms to run our CBDC and very different versions of blockchain that are out there at this point in time. So the whole element of harmonization still needs to be resolved on a global scale. Unlike in the traditional fiat world where you have the SWIFT network, where 190 countries plus can effectively transact. So I can send my South African rands to Nigeria, or I can send my South African rands to China or to Uzbekistan, and effectively that can be facilitated by the fiat SWIFT network at this stage. That equivalent does not exist currently in the blockchain space at this point in time. And that's another area of research that we still need to pursue at this point. So I think this is a very, very exciting field as a fintech player, both at an academic level as well as also the commercial level. I do want to see the CBDC coming to market sooner than later. One, it will certainly lower the cost for the end consumer. Secondly, provide more efficiency to the system. And thirdly, we hope with utilizing blockchain, particularly the Ethereum blockchain with smart contracts, it'll be a lot more safer, secure, and a lot more transparent going forward. So Abiola, I hope that provides some insight and context to CBDCs, and I'll be happy to take any further questions later on. So thank you for now.
Thank you so much. It's been a professorial journey with you on this very topic. But I'll go to Gamaliel now. Gamaliel, you have done a lot of work in financial inclusion, and we've talked about fintech and blockchain. Some of the solutions that have been used to deploy fintech solutions, the scratch of it that has brought out a lot of potential in those areas is use of digital mobile technology, mobile phone for fintech extension, especially to undeserved communities. All right. What would you say are things that we can do better to make fintech using blockchain possibly to extend financial services to undeserved communities, to rural communities, to people at the last mile, coming from your background in financial inclusion? Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Nice to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to be on this panel. It's great insight, Isa, Troy, and Exo. Troy, I've shared earlier. So for what we do, I think in order to drive financial inclusion to undeserved societies, the government needs to do more. We all agree that the government is very critical. The government needs to do a lot more in investing in infrastructure. The government needs to do a lot more in investing in technology. The government needs to do a lot more in investing in security. And the government needs to do a lot more in investing in broadband width. Currently in Nigeria, what we have is the 4G, which is about 50% optimization. But in advanced countries like China and the US, we have up to the 8G and the 9G. Having said that, I also do think that the private sector players are also very critical in driving inclusion. And that is what some of us here at PressPay, those are one of the solutions we offer, from edu banking to edu loans to health insurance, to crowdfunding of education and all of that. Because a society that is inclusive. It's a society that is safe for all. Let me say that again. A society that is inclusive is a society that is safe for all. So if we have financial inclusion reach some certain height, it will help reduce crime to a large extent, and from government to do certain things, and has led to protests. That same protest went up in Kenya, resulting in the loss of many lives until the president scrapped the finance bill, sacked his ministers, and all of that. So first off, like I said, everything comes to the government. So we can see use cases in Kenya, and it is one of the most successful mobile money platforms. That is M-Pesa. It has transformed financial access in Kenya. So if we can have that in developed economies, maybe Kenya, Nigeria, maybe Ghana, recording the same success that M-Pesa has recorded, I'm sure that in another 5 years, Africa will be the greatest destination of things like this. I mean, in the Philippines, for example, they have what we call the GCash, and it offers a. So, like I said, connectivity is very critical. We need to ensure that mobile financial services are accessible to everyone. I do not have the data at the tip of my fingertips, but I'm not sure data is accessible to everyone. And I know that Issa, myself, Troy, will probably doing something around USSD. But question is that even with that, how many people, despite the fact that we have availability of mobile phones, can access financial services? So even telecom operators need to do a lot more. We need to do a lot of awareness. We need to do digital literacy. There has to be regulatory compliance. We need to touch more on collaboration. So we need to see a handshake where players in a value system do not see themselves as competitors, but they see themselves as collaborators. So we are all panelists on this session. Can we do something together after this? Can we look at the gaps in our respective destinations, economies, and say, okay, if this alliance has given us a platform to meet, can we take it to the next level? Can we come up with a situation paper or a white paper to government to say, government, this is X, Y, and Z that we think that can be done? I strongly feel that mobile banking is the best thing that has ever happened to the Africa and Middle East. Permit my choice of word, better than Nigerian jollof rice. And we need to use it to deepen the conversations around financial inclusion, around digital literacy, and what have you. Education is very critical. And that is a powerful tool to change the world. So imagine if all the panelists here didn't go to school, what would have happened? So we need to also change that narrative that education is not important. We need to make people understand that as much as education is important, we need to leverage technology and begin to expand our skill set to do more. Having said that, again, let me end with what we're doing at PressPay. We're doing a mobile solution that allows students to access loans, and it is just in their mobile. So imagine how many people can do that from the confines of their office. For one product, we have layered other products like Edu Health, Edu Savings, Edu Insurance. We're doing crowdfunding. And because of what we have done, the government in Nigeria recently signed the Student Loan Act into law. And they had to call us into the room to say, guys, we can see what you're doing. So as private sector players, even though we're incapacitated, we do not have the funds to play. Yet, when we start and we are intentional and consistent, government will definitely see us and invite us in the room. And once we collaborate together with the government, I'm sure that we'll record significant milestones in the future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Practical insights. Also calling for way forward, not just discussing here alone, way forward on how to make things better going forward. But I'm going to come to Chikezere. You are an expert in blockchain. You've worked so much with blockchain. And for you, you see blockchain as the next thing to advance growth in financial space across Middle East and Africa. But we're all concerned about privacy issues, security issues. In fact, sometimes people feel blockchain, especially DeFi, decentralized financing, protects too much of privacy and might enable fraud in the process. There are a lot of clampdown by, for example, in Nigeria, because it's believed that blockchain has enabled fraud, moving money without traceability across Africa and Middle East. What are your thoughts? What are your concerns about first issues of privacy and security, and issues on enabling fraud by use of deploying blockchain or a part of blockchain, crypto, of course, across Africa and Middle East? What are your thoughts on this? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I have been able to work with a company in Lagos, in Abuja, A&D Forensic. It's an investigation office wherein we have tried to track and trace crypto issues. And we have also trained industry leaders, EFCC, ICPC. They've come to our office back then in Abuja for us to train them. And we have series of cases that was reported to us, and we were able to trace it and recover the money. Yes, there are a lot of issues around fraud and privacy issues. But I believe that first, the company has to have it in their own to-do list to ensure that they are internally compliant. I also have several scenarios wherein a company had a money laundering issue and they didn't have an AML policy in-house, which is a lot of issue, because it is required of you as a financial provider that you must have internally privacy policy, wherein tell your users how you use their data, and also having in-house an AML policy that is trying to guide you and how you're going to monitor activities on your platform, how you're going to trace any money or try to escalate it to regulators, which is more important, because if you don't build this trust and transparency and accountability as a financial service provider, it's going to disrupt and it's going to affect all you have built over the years. And it's not only going to affect the users, but investors generally. So I believe that if the AML policy is established in-house, third-party tools are integrated into the system to monitor all that is happening. There is incident escalation metrics, where if any incident is happening, that's where compliance comes in. You need to integrate a tool that will try to conduct KYC. If KYCs are conducted, I know that, okay, if a particular threshold is extended, or you try to have a kind of a round, if a particular money enters an account, I know that person is not ought to accept that money. It's going to escalate it, and there's going to be a trigger, an alarm trigger. And by that, there's going to be an investigation into what the person is doing, if the person is a listed person or the person is linked to a government agency or a government, maybe someone in government. They're going to make sure that the person is called to book. You're going to bring the person, investigate internally and call the person, and also involve the regulatory agencies, likes of EFCC. If that is being conducted and you are trying to put it out there and buy the trust of users, I believe truly that you are not only going to secure the trust of users, but investors are going to come in, because investors don't come in wherein they know that their money is not protected. They are going to come in to invest in a system that they trust. And what builds that trust is the usability and how you are able to scale through. Thank you.
Sorry, Abiola, you are muted.
Well, sorry. Thank you, Isa. I said we have covered a lot of issues, and it's just like the hours allocated for the program seems not to be enough or adequate for a couple of issues that people have to share. So what I would do now is I would just call on us all to, starting with Isa all over again, to share our thoughts and recommendations for how to improve blockchain and financial inclusion in Africa and Middle East. I'll start with Isa, then I'll go around again, because I'm sure before we do the rounds, it will be a bit of time. So I want to advise us to do just 1 minute each, such that we can take questions from the audience. So Isa, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hold on. Isa, maybe we should do this. Let's take questions from the audience. Okay. And then while answering the questions, we'll just do our final thoughts. I think we should do that because time seems not to be enough for lots of things we would like to share. Please, apologies. So questions from the audience, please. All you have to do is to, and please, we have a 10 hard stop. We need to stop this by 10. So let's raise our hands and ask questions.